This episode is packed with updates on vulnerabilities, malware campaigns, phishing scams, ransomware, and some good news about law enforcement busting cybercriminals. We'll look at a new HTTP by 2 flaw called MadeYouReset that could drown web servers with thousands of requests. And we'll unpack how the Cross C2 framework now brings Cobalt Strike to Linux and macOS. There's a whole new wave of Android banking malware using NFC relay fraud and call hijacking to drain accounts. On the bright side, coordinated efforts have frozen over $300 million in illicit crypto assets. We'll also warn you about the Crypto24 ransomware gang's custom EDR killer, a clever phishing campaign abusing a Japanese character to imitate Booking.com URLs, and a data breach affecting Canada's House of Commons linked to recently patched Microsoft flaws. Stay tuned for the details, potential impacts, and what you can do to stay secure. Today is Friday, August 15th, 2025. I'm Aaron from AsecMaster, host of this daily security updates podcast. Thanks for joining us today, and happy Friday. It's great to have you all with us. All right, folks, first up, there's a gnarly new vulnerability in the HTTP2 protocol dubbed MadeYouReset. Researchers found that by sending carefully crafted streams, an attacker can trick a server into resetting valid streams thousands of times. This bypasses the usual limit of 100 concurrent requests per connection and can lead to denial of service or out-of-memory crashes on web servers. Affected products include Apache Tomcat, F5 Big IP, and Netty. Essentially, if your site uses HTTP2, you could get hammered by a flood of bogus resets. Potential targets are any organizations hosting web services on vulnerable HTTP2 stacks. Think banks, e-commerce sites, SaaS providers, and cloud platforms. The impact is straight-up downtime as legitimate users can't connect. To mitigate, patch as soon as your vendor releases fixes, monitor for abnormal spikes in RST stream frames, and consider rate limiting or moving critical services behind CDN-based protections. And for long-term resilience, look into HTTP2+ implementations that address these protocol ambiguities. Next, Japanese CERT analysts blew the lid off Cross C2, a toolkit that extends Cobalt Strike to Linux and macOS. Attackers used it with other tools like SEC and plink to compromise Active Directory. A custom NIM-based loader, readNIM loader, sideloads malicious DLLs via the legitimate java.exe process. The loader decrypts shellcode and deploys Cobalt Strike Beacon entirely in memory, while anti-analysis tricks prevent detection. This campaign overlaps with Black Suit Blackbuster ransomware activity and uses backdoors like SystemBC. The scary part? Many Linux servers lack endpoint detection and response tools, making them juicy targets. To all the sysadmins out there, install EDR on your Linux boxes, harden remote management, audit scheduled tasks for suspicious Java calls, and block outbound connections to unknown C2 domains. If your environment is cross-platform, assume it could be a pivot point in a ransomware attack.
Now let's talk about smartphones and money. ThreatFabric has uncovered PhantomCard, an Android Trojan that abuses near-field communication to relay your credit or debit card info. Disguised as Protects Now Cartois app on fake Google Play pages, it asks users to place their card on the back of the phone and enter their PIN. Meanwhile, the app relays the data to an attacker-controlled server, letting crooks perform contactless transactions as if they were standing at an ATM. The app is tied to Chinese malware as a service called NFU Pay, and the same actor advertises compatibility with tools like BTMOB and Ghost Spy. Beyond Brazil, the Go1 Alano developer claims the malware works worldwide, opening banks everywhere to card cloning. In India, K7 Security spotted a separate SpyBanker campaign that forwards your calls to attacker-controlled numbers and harvests SIM details, banking credentials, and notifications. It even drops an XMR miner and masquerades as credit card apps for major banks. There are also reports of rooting frameworks like Kernel SU and Apache being abused to gain root and fully compromised devices. Guys, the impact here is full-on financial theft and device takeover. Countermeasures: only install banking apps from official stores, disable NFC when not in use, never click smishing links, and use mobile security software. Banks should monitor for relay fraud, enforce PIN on all contactless transactions, and educate customers about these scams. And if you're a developer, patch those root frameworks and implement proper access controls. Let's switch gears to some positive news. Over $300 million worth of cryptocurrency tied to cybercrime has been frozen. Since September 2024, the T3 Plus Global Collaborator Program, launched by Tron, Tether, and joined by Binance, has seized more than $250 million in criminal assets, including $6 million from romance baiting scams. The program analyzes millions of transactions across 5 continents and helps law enforcement tackle money laundering, investment fraud, extortion, and terrorism financing. A second initiative, run by U.S. and Canadian authorities with Chainalysis, has found over 2,000 scam wallet addresses across 14 countries and blacklisted more than $50 million in Tether. In 6 months, these operations uncovered $74.3 million in fraud and froze large portions. This shows that coordinated law enforcement and blockchain analytics can seriously disrupt cybercriminals. Still, as individuals, be cautious about romance scams and crypto investments that sound too good to be true. Use regulated exchanges, enable multi-factor authentication, and verify any investment opportunity with trusted sources. Meanwhile, the Crypto24 ransomware gang has ramped up operations with a custom EDR evasion tool. Trend Micro says Crypto24 has hit big-ticket organizations in finance, manufacturing, entertainment, and tech across the US, Europe, and Asia. After sneaking in, the attackers activate default admin accounts or create new ones, run reconnaissance, and set up malicious services like Winmain SVC, a keylogger, and MSR Runtime, the ransomware loader. They then deploy a modified version of the open-source RealBlindingEDR tool that disables kernel drivers for major security products such as Trend Micro, Kaspersky, Sophos, and SentinelOne. On Trend Micro systems, they even use the legitimate XBC uninstaller.exe to remove the agent. Once the EDR is blinded, Crypto24 logs keystrokes, exfiltrates data via Google Drive, deletes volume shadow copies, and finally runs the ransomware payload. The impact here is severe: data theft, operational disruption, ransom demands, and potential regulatory fines. Mitigation starts with strong EDR that monitors kernel tampering, regular backups stored offline, strict privilege management, and network segmentation. Consider monitoring for anomalous scheduled tasks and keylogger-like processes. Trend Micro has published indicators of compromise to help defenders detect this threat. Phishing is getting more devious by the day. A new Booking.com scam uses the Japanese hiragana character to make URLs look like they're on the real domain. In emails, the text reads something like admin.booking.com/hotel/hoteladmin, but actually points to account.booking.com detail restrict access.www-accountbooking.com. The homoglyph appears similar to a /, tricking people into trusting the URL. Clicking through leads to a malicious MSI installer hosting malware. Bleeping Computer also spotted a parallel campaign against Intuit users where attackers registered domains starting with Intuit to mimic Intuit. The emails even use narrow layouts tailored for mobile devices to exploit small screens and encourage quick tapping. To avoid becoming a victim, always hover over links to see where they really go. Scrutinize domain names. The actual registered domain sits just before the first single slash, and use security software that blocks malicious downloads. Developers should implement protections against homograph attacks at the browser and email client level, such as warning indicators for Unicode lookalikes.
Finally, some bad news from Canada. The House of Commons is investigating a data breach after a threat actor exploited a Microsoft vulnerability. Staff were notified that the attacker accessed a database used to manage computers and mobile devices and stole employee names, job titles, office locations, and email addresses. The Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity is assisting, but hasn't attributed the attack yet. The breach is believed to involve recently patched Microsoft flaws. A SharePoint bug tracked as CVE 2025-53770 and dubbed Tool Shell, which has been under active exploitation by Chinese state-backed groups, and an Exchange vulnerability CVE 2025-53786 that prompted an emergency directive from CISA. Over 29,000 Exchange servers remain unpatched, making many organizations vulnerable to similar attacks. Potential impacts include spear phishing, impersonation, and broader domain compromise. Countermeasures are straightforward.
apply patches immediately, review logs for unusual access, enforce least privilege on admin accounts, and educate staff about potential follow-up scams. Government agencies should invest in vulnerability management and engage incident response teams early.
That wraps up today's Security Rundown. Remember, cyber threats evolve quickly, but staying informed helps you stay ahead. Keep visiting the SecMaster for daily cybersecurity updates, and don't forget to follow our blog and socials. Thanks for listening and for your support. We'll catch you in the next episode. Have a safe and secure weekend, y'all.